Hello, fellow gamers. This is Tim, Sam7, and this is my third part of my AD&D First Edition Dungeon Master's Guide review, or DMG. Book talks about how shamans differ from clerics with limitations on certain spells. Uh, it's basically there's actually some commentary on the different spells in AD&D and how they can be used and abused, and what DMGs or what basically the DM should look out for when he's running a game to make sure that the players don't like kind of get one over on them. And basically just warnings how DM should referee certain spells. Page 48 is kind of interesting. There's some artwork. Let's see here. You guys can make that out. Probably not. It's a full page art, and it basically just kind of reminds me of like Galadriel in the woods. So I thought that was kind of neat. There's suggestions and rules for outdoor adventuring, for flying and aerial combat, which I've always thought is a pain as a DM. I almost think you need like kind of like that Star Trek game that has the different levels that are clear and grids. I think that would work out good. I think. Another aerial combat thing I've actually seen that was actually pretty good was in Traveler, where you literally have 3 graphs and you have a ship marker for the aerial space combat on different axes. So it's I don't know, it's kind of strange whenever anyone wants to fly. I always think it's a pain in the ass. It goes over some monsters that can fly too. Goes through things about water adventures, rules and suggestions. Interesting is that naval terms and terminology are here for like ships and what part of the ship is. And I don't know about you, I really don't know the types of parts of the ship, so I thought that was really cool. If I ever ran a pirate game, I would definitely check this section out because I think it would help me out a lot. Goes through the planes of existence and how everything can be different. The laws of physics can be different in the different planes. There's movement through different types of terrain are talked about, as well as infravision and how it works. Big section on invisibility and how things to like watch out for. Basically trying to make invisibility less of a I win button. Things like sound and smell can give them away. There's problems with like party members can't see them, so healing spells can miss as well because they require touch. If you're silenced and invisible, how do you coordinate anything? If you're a DM, you should not let the players talk to each other because their characters can't talk to each other. So it basically says, like just because their characters are invisible, just it isn't as good as they think it is. If they're doing something solo, I think it would be really good. But if they're a group of people all trying to be quiet with a silence and invisible spell, there's all kinds of problems that can happen with that. So watch out for that. I talked about like dust and dirt on the floor that gets disturbed. Powder in the air. In this version, it sounds like powder in the air actually will land on invisible characters, and or like you dump water on them, you'll see the water dripping, things like that. Oh, and doors opening by themselves always creates suspicion, or at least it should, in creatures that live in the dungeon, because they've been around for a while and they know what invisibility is. It says that you can detect invisibility by intelligence versus like the level and hit dice of the creature's little chart. Goes through listening at doors. You have to remove your helmet to do so, which is interesting. Ear seeker monsters, which you put your ear up to the door and the parasite's gonna get into your ear and start eating your brain, which I think is kind of rough. The check is made by the DM, and this is something I think I should do more of. When I play D&D 3.5, there's always like listen checks. Oh, I rolled a 1. I don't hear anything, so the player knows that even if there is something there, he just rolled crappy. I think the DM really should roll a lot of stuff like listen checks, spot checks, those sorts of things, perception checks, traps, just so the player really doesn't know. It's like, well, you don't find any traps, and you don't know if the GM rolled terrible or rolled good. So I think that's something I need to use more. he talks about being vague whenever you do find something that you're hearing. It goes into the combat round. It basically says that a round is actually 1 minute, and that each roll of the dice is not just one swing of the sword, but it's actually a minute of parrying and basically just trying to find a weakness. Um, and I think that I've always assumed it was just one strike, so that was kind of a nice little revelation for me. And there's a surprise round using a d6, the distance between you and your opponent, initiative for each side. It's a little bit different than I'm used to. Labyrinth Lore does that as well. Then there are actions, and then the other party creates their actions, and then you repeat the steps again. Goes over encounters and their reactions. I like that missiles have the chance to hit your fellow party members. I've always liked friendly fire rules in RPGs. I never really liked the D&D 3.5, like, oh, well, you have a -4 to hit. No, I want the chance to shoot my fellow party member in the back, or in the side of the head.